holiday. He is Riot QuickShot.
Thank you very much, Paula. A glorious intro for you, QuickShot, and I gotta say also a glorious beard.
It's not quite Joe Miller levels, but I'm trying. It's actually for men's health awareness for testicular and prostate cancer. So if you're a dude and you're watching the stream and you don't know what those words are, Movember.com, go check it out. I'm trying.
I gotta say, great cause, and it looks great, so it's like two birds with one stone. Now, seriously, of course, we saw you a lot during the World Finals, did a fantastic job there at the analysis desk. What have you been up to?
Since World Finals, the rest of October was like vacation time for most of the esports department at Riot. Just chill, relax, clear, our heads and everything. But November's been a lot of talking and planning for the upcoming promotion tournament, Battle of the Atlantic, and planning a lot for the 2014 season, which is coming up. And just a lot of talking, strategizing, how to improve ourselves, how to improve the show, things like that.
Yeah, now I have you here. Small talk is amazing, but I'd like to pick your brain, of course. We just come off the final of NIP versus the Copenhagen Wolves in that amateur tournament. And is there anything specifically that you've picked up from that final or the tournament in general?
So the first thing is that a lot of people expected NIP to be victorious. They were the clear favorites going in there. Everybody knew the strength of the Copenhagen Wolves, but maybe not too many people outside of the Wolves themselves expected them to win it. And, they took down SK Gaming yesterday convincingly. They took out NIP in Game 2 convincingly. In Game 1, it was pretty clear as well, albeit at a slower pace. And I think every other team that has to face them in the upcoming promotion tournament is going to be terrified.
Absolutely. Deficio just said it. We are not going to pick the Copenhagen Wolves, and I can just feel that SK Gaming and MYM will feel the same if they are able to choose them, of course, because they are in the qualifier for that spring promotion tournament with H2K Gaming and Salad Tomat Union and TCM and two other teams that are left to be determined. But do you feel, as we've said and as NIP has said, that we are not going to show anything here, but does it not show enough if you can't even win this final?
I'm going to be very honest. I think that's a bit of a cop-out. I don't think that's a legitimate excuse. You're playing 3.13. You're playing a patch that has just recently, been outdated with 3.14 coming out this week, where we haven't confirmed any specifics for promotion tournament, but you can expect that in the next month the game's going to change. And not holding strats, not holding, holding things back, what's really going to change? Especially when you consider that SK Gaming and NIP, they get to pick their opponents. They get to decide which team they want to face. And MYM may get left playing against Copenhagen Wolves, if nobody else touches them.
Absolutely. I can't wait for that tournament. And of course, we also had the pro tournament. We're still going to have the final, Fnatic versus Gambit, which also means that EU is victorious here because the two EU teams and the NA teams have lost against the EU teams here again. Does that spell anything out for you, or?
So it's a little bit of a difficult one to read because both series were fantastic, but for very different reasons. Let's talk about Fnatic CLG first. That game was very close, and it was basically a copy-paste of the series against Cloud9 at Worlds, where Fnatic won Game 1, it was fairly close, but convincing towards the mid and late game. Game 2, convincing for the Americans. In Game 3, even to the point that Niantansa got caught out in the exact same position that we've seen happening, at Worlds. I think that CLG performed very well, though. Even while they were losing, they weren't necessarily being crushed. Mm-hmm. Cloud9, on the other hand, they took a much more intense beating from our Russian overlords that we've been talking about. And I think they definitely have to go back to the drawing board and talk about some things. Balls in particular, his Rumble, which decimated North America, it didn't even dent Gambit.
Yeah, absolutely. And they have a lot of work to do because we have the Battle of the Atlantic coming up next month as well. How do you think that will go?
I like it. I really like it because one of the things that happened when we announced Battle of the Atlantic, a lot of people were almost sad. They were like, oh, we've seen these matchups before. It's Fnatic Cloud9. We've seen Gambit Vulcan, which is now XDG. We've seen Lemon Dog's TSM, which are the matches that's coming. But this is why I like it because now after seeing these games and after seeing these grudge matches, Cloud9 now gets a chance to redeem their world's loss, and Vulcan gets to try and smash Gambit again like they did the very first time they played. So a lot more bragging rights. Look, EU's the best. We've proven it again as a region.
You might do
And
good at All-Star, but
they've got to defend it again. You know, it's about a month away, and there's very high profile matches going on.
yeah, it's all in good fun, of course. It's going to be an amazing tournament there, and those bragging rights are important. We should not beat around the bush. But another thing that was a big theme here is, of course, a lot of teams coming here with lineup changes or things that they've altered. And I'd like to run through the European teams with you because you know them very well, of course. Starting off with Gambit, who has been back with Edward. How have they blown your socks off?
They perform very well. I think this next series against Fnatic that we'll get to a little bit is what's going to determine whether or not my socks are still on or not. But I think they've performed very well. I think, you know, we have high expectations because it is Gambit, it is old Moscow 5, it is old Empire, you know. They've got such a long and storied history. I think that if they can beat Fnatic in this series, it's definitely looking up for them. But they were always hovering in the fringe. They've always been in the top 3. They just weren't necessarily as dominant as last year.
And what about the changes to Fnatic or, well, the return?
Well, Fnatic's the return of Reckless. I mean, Reckless has been with them. If anybody's followed them on social media or their events, Reckless has been traveling with the team often. He goes on the road shows with them. You know, whenever they had events that were in sync with the amateur team when he was playing with Copenhagen Wolves, they were there. They were in attendance, you know. So this is just returning to it. And I'm happy you mentioned both of these rosters because they're the only two that have basically cemented their rosters for next year. That's 2 out of 8 teams.
Yep.
We can assume MYM will stay the same. They've stayed the same for so long. We're not really expecting change. Lemon Dogs, they don't even have a team. They've lost it. The only standing member is Dexter. Alternate, they've changed their team, but we haven't seen them on a big stage. You've then got Evil Geniuses, who haven't said a word. We haven't seen or heard anything from them. Who am I missing next
Alternate?
now? Alternate, for example, we mentioned, touched on them. SK Gaming, they've subbed out and moved all of their rosters around. The fact that they got knocked out in the first round, are they going to stay? Are they going to swap again? You know, what's the next question? And of course, NIP, they still have to re-earn their spot going into the promotion tournament as well.
Yeah, absolutely. What are your thoughts on the fact that because of the high level of games that are played in the LCS and the high stress on the players to perform, that this swapping out happens and fairly serious as we've seen now? Is that something that you like? You like to see those new faces in there? Or?
So it's hit and miss. It depends on what the cause of the swap is. If you were doing it to apply a band-aid on, you know, a team or a player that is underperforming, I don't think that's the best intention, because trying to apply small little stitches to an open wound is not going to be a right fix. I think if, however, you make decisions like Evil Geniuses did with Shaka during the course of the summer split and said, look, we need a new jungler who's maybe a little bit more hungry, who's a little bit more in tune with the game right now, that makes sense to me. So, you know, the NIP swap is massive. That's a big, big change because the entire team's different. It hasn't worked out. They couldn't even beat Copenhagen Wolves, who have next to no LCS experience. And I mean, Copenhagen Wolves, they've taken down SK, MYM recently, and now NIP. You know, that's terrifying for a team that's all 5 members have been on the highest level of European League of Legends.
Absolutely. There's a lot that we have learned of this weekend. And of course, we have a finger-licking good final coming up. Fnatic takes on Gambit Gaming up. I can't wait. What do you think? They both look really strong, yet Fnatic dropped the game.
So the one thing I want to talk about for this particular matchup is it's one that's been heavily in favor of Fnatic for this last year. You know, Fnatic, it was the final of the spring split. Fnatic managed to pull out 3-2. During the course of the summer split, if I recall correctly, Fnatic went 4-0 against Gambit and, you know, didn't drop a game. And it's been the Fnatic story, but I think the hunger is back for Gambit. I think, you know, Intel Extreme Masters has always been a Gambit event. They've always shown up. You know, they've always turned the pressure on when they needed to. And I think as long as they continue playing the way they did earlier, Fnatic may actually not pick up the series.
You're going with Gambit?
I think so.
Oh, you're having a hard time deciding.
No, I do have a bit of a tough one, you know, predicting this one, but I think that my gut's telling me Gambit just wants this one more. You know, Fnatic are still riding high. They did well at Worlds. You know, they placed in the top 4. They just fought really hard against CLG, but they haven't needed to prove themselves quite as much as what Gambit do, especially now with the return of the prodigal son. You know, now that the prince is back, they want to reclaim the title to the throne, and they have to take down Fnatic to do it. I mean, summer and spring split champion, Gambit has to pull out all the stops here.
Let's hope that we get 3 great games. Thank you very much for your insights. Enjoy the game. Your